Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and allow your mind to drift slowly like a ship leaving the safety of its harbor. Let your breath become the tide. Let your heartbeat find the rhythm of the waves. Tonight, we begin a journey. One, not measured by speed or distance, but by depth and stillness. A journey back to an age when the world was largely unknown, when the seas were vast and mysterious, and when brave souls sailed not with certainty, but with wonder. The age of exploration, a time when the edge of every map ended in silence, a time when the word unknown meant everything: danger, discovery, possibility, and dreams. This is not a tale of conquest or empire. Not tonight. This is a quiet journey, a slow voyage through thoughts and winds and waves. We'll drift across oceans, glide past forgotten coastlines, and stand quietly beside the men who left everything behind to follow nothing more than a compass and a star. No rush, no fear, just the gentle unfolding of history across calm waters. This is the world of wooden hulls and canvas sails, of whispered prayers and starlit decks, of charts drawn by candlelight and islands that appeared like ghosts on the horizon. If you enjoy sailing gently through stories like this, where the sea is your lullaby, and the wind carries the weight of time, we invite you to support this voyage. Gently tap the like button, subscribe to SleepTide Narratives, and share this journey with someone who might also need a quiet escape. And in the comments, tell us, if you could board a ship to anywhere with no need to return, where would you go? Now breathe and come with me. It began quietly, not with a battle or a bell, but with a longing. In small coastal towns scattered along the edges of Europe or Portugal, Spain, Genoa, Venice, men stood at the water's edge and stared. For centuries, the sea had been a border, a place of endings. But now, it became a beginning. Trade routes had grown narrow. Old empires had shifted. The Silk Road had grown dangerous. The east, the spice-rich lands of India, the golden temples of Southeast Asia, the porcelain wonders of China called out with silent voices. And between those treasures, and the hands that wanted them, lay the sea. Ships were not yet ready. Maps were wrong. Compasses were new. But curiosity is older than caution. And so, sailors began to dream. At first, they hugged the coastline. Portuguese caravels, light and swift, slipped southward along Africa's western edge, inch by inch, cape by cape. Each voyage brought more information, more fear, and more courage. Sailors told stories of burning coasts, of sea monsters, of headwinds that could trap a ship for months. But they returned, and each time they returned just a little farther from where they'd been before. In the beginning, no one knew how large the world was. Some still believed in legends that the seas boiled near the equator, that beyond a certain point the ocean simply dropped. But as sails filled with wind and months passed beneath unfamiliar stars, those myths began to fade, replaced not by certainty, but by a new kind of bravery, the bravery to not know. Imagine now a ship leaving Lisbon in the soft gold of dawn. The harbor behind it is alive with cries and salt and farewells. The sailors on board are quiet. Some are excited, others are afraid. Their destination is not a place, but a direction, west, into the unknown. The wooden deck creaks beneath. Their boots, the sails snap like drums in the wind, and slowly the land disappears. Days pass, then weeks. The ocean changes color. The clouds shift shape. The men begin to fall into rhythm. There are no clocks, only stars, only the sun's angle, only the wind's mood. They eat dried biscuits, drink brackish water, tell stories, to fill the silence. The air is thick with sweat and rope and longing. And at night, when the sea is black and the sky is endless, they look upward not for beauty, but for direction. The North Star becomes a friend, the Southern Cross a sign. Navigation is not math, it's a prayer. Back on land, no one knows where they are. The map shows only guesses. Sea serpents, dragons, margins marked here be monsters. But still, they sail, some for money, some for glory, some for the chance to be the first, but most for the wonder, the endless, aching pull of the question, what's out there? And when land appears, it's not loud. It doesn't rise with trumpets or drums. It begins with birds first one, then many, then a smell, soil, flowers, something green. Then, on the horizon, a blur, a shape, a line that doesn't move, like a wave, land, and the silence breaks into shouts, laughter, weeping, because they've made it. They've crossed into the unknown and found something waiting. Sometimes they find islands empty, strange, filled with new sounds and shapes. Other times they find people watching from the trees, silent, unsure, just as curious as the sailors. These moments are delicate. History would later twist them into stories of conquest. But at first, they are just moments. Two strangers, both surprised that the world held the other. But that is not tonight's story. We are not here to judge or weigh. We are here to drift, to imagine, to feel the roll of the ship beneath our feet and the salt in the air, to walk slowly through the age of exploration, not as captains or kings, but as quiet witnesses, to stand on deck and stare at a horizon no one has ever seen before, and to know that, in that moment, the world was bigger than anyone had dreamed. Let that idea soothe you now. Let the wind of it fill your lungs. Let the slowness of that voyage become your breath, because you are safe, you are still, you are far from danger and close to wonder. And tonight we sail only where the story allows. Close your eyes. Let the waves carry you. There is much more to explore. And we have time. Block 2. Life aboard. Time, salt, and silence. Let us return slowly to the open sea. The harbor is long gone, and the shoreline, once a thin thread on the horizon, has vanished completely. There is only ocean now, vast, eternal, patient. It stretches in all directions, blue and grey and silver, sometimes calm as glass, sometimes restless with wind. The sails above creak softly, full but not strained, catching breezes that carry the ship further from everything familiar. Beneath your feet, the wooden deck rolls gently with the swell. Around you, the endless rhythm of waves murmurs like an ancient lullaby. You are aboard now, not as a captain or commander, but as an observer, silent, watching, feeling, listening. Life at sea in the age of exploration was not a whirlwind of discovery. It was, for long stretches, a life of waiting, of monotony, of tasks repeated with precision and care. The great voyages we read about were made not only of dramatic landfalls and exotic encounters, but of countless quiet days when nothing happened but the turning of the sea and the soft call of gulls that had wandered too far. The men aboard are a tapestry of ages and origins. Some are seasoned sailors, weathered and silent, their skin darkened by years of salt and sun. Others are young and wide-eyed, barely more than boys, faces still soft, eyes still eager. A few are convicted men offered passage in exchange for pardon. Others are volunteers, pulled by promises of gold, of glory, or of simply not having to stay where they were. All of them live within the same wooden walls, breathe the same damp air, share the same narrow space between sea and sky. They rise with the sun not because of alarm bells or schedules, but because the day begins when the light returns. There are watches to keep, lines to check, decks to scrub, sails to adjust, water to ration, food to distribute, ropes to coil, tools to sharpen. Always something, not frantic, just constant. The ship is a world of its own, and every man has a part in keeping it alive. Breakfast, if it can be called that, is simple. Hard-tacked biscuits that crack like stone, soaked in water or dipped in salt pork to soften them. Dried peas, sometimes fish, if the sea is kind. A tin cup of wine or weak beer, safer than water stored. Too long in barrels. There is no variety, no indulgence. Just enough to move muscles and hold hunger at bay. And yet, in this simplicity, there is rhythm, comfort even. The deck feels familiar beneath their boots. The ropes respond to their hands, the sails fill and fall with the language of the wind. The ship groans, not in complaint, but like a living thing speaking softly in its sleep. Conversations are brief, jokes are shared, but laughter is quiet. Most talk happens with the eyes, with nods, glances, shared gestures honed by months at sea. Everyone knows the pattern. Everyone knows what's expected. And then there are the hours between duties. The moments that stretch. Some men mend clothes. Others carve pieces of driftwood into small figures. Some write in journals, scratching thoughts into damp pages. A few simply sit, staring at the line where sky meets sea, unmoving. Not bored, just still. It is in these moments that time changes shape. It no longer moves forward. It deepens, expands. A day at sea is not measured in hours, but in changes. Of light, in the shifting direction of the wind, in the shape of clouds, in the stars that arrive with dusk. Nightfall comes slowly, like a curtain drawn by unseen hands. The sun melts into the horizon, painting the waves with streaks of amber. And crimson, the air cools. Voices grow softer. Lanterns are lit, small flames flickering inside protective glass, casting golden halos against the dark. Some men sleep, others keep watch. The sea is not empty, after all. Currents change. Storms approach. Ships are small things, fragile things. And the ocean is old. Below deck, the air is thicker. The smell of salt and sweat and wood soaked with years of voyagers clings to every beam. The sleeping quarters are cramped, hammocks slung between posts, swaying gently with the ship's motion. Men breathe deeply, some mutter in their sleep. Others dream of land, of home, of green fields, of faces missed. And above, the stars. The night sky at sea is like no other. Without lamps, without cities, without noise, the stars emerge in full splendor, countless, precise, eternal. The Milky Way stretches across the black like a road of light. Constellations rise and fall. The North Star stays steady, faithful. Navigators study the heavens with quiet reverence. The sky is not decoration. It is instruction. It tells them where they are, where they're going, how fast, how far. But even for those who don't read the stars, they offer something. comfort, mystery, company. A reminder that even in the middle of the sea, they are not alone. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, the sea grows still. The wind disappears. The sails droop. The ship rocks gently, aimlessly, suspended in water and time. No motion, no sound. Just the creaking of wood, the soft lap of waves against the hull, and the occasional call of a seabird lost in the dark. In those moments, the men think of why they left, of what they seek, of what waits beyond the map's edge. Some think of fortune spices silver, fame. Others think of escape from poverty, from punishment, from boredom. A few think of God, of signs, of destiny. But most simply feel the vastness, the quiet, the beautiful strangeness of being so far from everything, and yet so close to something new. And so the days pass, each one like the last, yet different. Some bring storms, others bring laughter, some bring nothing at all, and that, too, is part of the journey. The age of exploration was not made in moments of triumph. It was built in these slow days, these quiet watches, these long nights under unfamiliar stars. Let that idea carry you now, like a ship on gentle water. Let the silence of the sea fill your lungs. Let the creak of rope and the sway of hammocks rock you to rest. You are not at sea, but your thoughts can drift there. No need to move, just listen, just breathe. There are still many shores ahead, and we are in no hurry to reach them. Block 3, first sight. Shores beyond the known, the sea has carried us far now. The winds, sometimes fierce and sometimes still, have whispered in the sails for weeks. The rhythm of life aboard the ship has quieted our minds, lulled us into that floating world where time stretches, not forward, but outward, and yet just. Beyond this endless horizon, something waits, something new, something unseen. And so, let us drift closer now, slowly, carefully, toward the moment when the unknown becomes real. It begins, not with a shout or a cry, but with a single voice, quiet, uncertain. Land, a word spoken not with joy, but with doubt. A question more than an answer. The crew gathers, blinking against the glare of morning, eyes straining to see past the shimmer of waves. And there, just on the edge of Sita, dark shape. Not a wave, not a cloud. A line that does not move. A curve that does not break. Land? But it is not the kind of land they left behind. It is not familiar. It is not marked. It does not appear on any chart. It is simply there. As the ship draws closer, the shapes become clearer. Trees taller than masts, their leaves shining. In colors the sailors do not recognize. Hills that roll like waves of stone. Beaches untouched by footprints. The scent changes, first salt gives way to something green, something alive, flowers, soil, wood warmed by the sun. It enters their nostrils like a memory they've never had. The ship anchors just offshore. The waters are too shallow. The men lower a boat. Oars dip silently. The shoreline nears. And in that quiet boat, hearts beat louder than drums. What will they find? Are they the first? Will someone be waiting? The boat slides into the sand with a soft hush. Boots sink into unfamiliar earth. Eyes scan the tree line. Birds scatter. A breeze moves through tall grass. But nothing else. No shouts. No spears. No greetings. Just silence. And the sound of a world untouched. The first steps onto land are slow, almost reverent. The sailors do not rush forward. They walk as if entering a church, touching the ground with the tips of their fingers, picking up leaves, pebbles, shells, holding them like treasure. Everything is different. The color of the bark, the shape of the fruit, the songs of the birds, the feel of the air heavy, sweet, thick with life. Some plants seem to shimmer, some trees seem to lean closer. The land itself feels alive in a way Europe never did. It does not feel ancient, it feels new. And yet, there is a presence here, not seen, not heard, but felt. The sense that someone or something watches, the knowledge that this place is not empty, that it has its own stories, its own time, its own people, and soon they appear. Not from behind trees or over hills, but suddenly, as if they were always there, silent, still watching, faces painted or not, eyes dark, steady, unreadable, no weapons raised, no words spoken, just two groups of human beings, seeing each other. For the first time, the sailors freeze. Their hands do not reach for swords. Not yet, they are not soldiers. They are explorers, traders, pilgrims. They are tired, hungry, humbled by the sea, and now humbled again by this moment. What passes between these two groups is not easily described. There are no translators, no common tongue, only gesture, expression, presence. A shell is offered, a smile returned, a leaf passed hand to hand, a drumbeat from one side, a laugh from the other. It is not peace, not yet, but it is not war. It is contact, and it is sacred. Hours pass like minutes. The sun moves across the sky unnoticed. Gifts are things, a wooden bead, a strip of cloth, a feather, a song. No one understands each other, but no one turns away. Night falls. The explorers return to their ships. The sky turns violet. Stars emerge. The sea is calm. But something has changed. They have touched a new world. They have been seen, and they have seen. On deck, the men sit in silence. Some hold the objects given to them. Others watch the shore fade into shadow. The fireflies along the tree line, the soft movement of torches, the sense that tomorrow the world will never be the same. But tonight they rest, not as conquerors, not yet, not even as heroes, just as travelers, sailors, witnesses. The journey is no longer about reaching land. Now it is about what comes next. Let this moment rest with you now. Let the weight of new earth steady your breath. Let the scent of trees you've never seen soothe your thoughts. You are far from danger, far from noise, close to wonder. Let go now. The voyage continues at dawn. And so does the story. Bloc 4 menos, the language of a new world vexão horizontal. The forest awaited them, not like a hidden place to be unveiled, but like a presence that had always been there, breathing just beyond sight, watching the ships from behind the trees. Long before the sails had appeared on the horizon, the moment they stepped beyond the familiar comfort of the shoreline and entered the green hush of this new land, they no longer felt like explorers or even travelers, but like guests in a world that did not need them. The first steps inland were not triumphant or loud. They were hesitant, reverent, almost childlike in their slowness. As boots pressed gently into earth, still wet with morning dew, and eyes lifted toward branches that curved in ways they had never seen, wrapped in vines that pulsed with life and colors that shimmered in the shifting light like oil on water. The air was warmer, heavier, touched by the scent of unknown flowers and soft decay, like life folding into itself endlessly, and with every breath they inhaled not just moisture, but memory of rains long past, of creatures hiding just out of view, of days that had never known interruption. It was not silence they heard, but 1,000 sounds layered upon one another so subtly that the ear could not separate them. The droning of insects weaving in and out of rhythm like threads in a tapestry, the calls of birds that didn't sound like any birds they'd ever known, tones rising and falling like flutes carved from bone, and beneath it all, the faint rustle of unseen movements, branches shifting under the weight of creatures watching without revealing themselves. Every leaf, every petal, every flicker of shadow carried with it a kind of authority, not aggressive, but ancient, as if the land itself were reminding them that it had grown, lived, died, and rebirthed long before any wooden ship had ever dared touch its waters. They moved as quietly as they could, hands brushing against wide fronds that folded inward at the slightest contact, eyes catching glimpses of beetles with iridescent shells, of frogs that blinked slowly from under mossy rocks, of lizards that vanished between roots with movements so fluid they seemed made of water. They bent to feel the bark of trees that bled red sap, warm and fragrant, and paused at small streams whose waters flowed with the clarity of glass but smelled of minerals and sweet rot. And they did not speak, not because there was nothing to say, but because language felt too heavy, too blunt for what unfolded around them in such detail and precision. Every now and then, one of them would kneel to study a flower whose petals seemed to glow faintly under shadow, or to collect a seed pod that rattled softly when shaken. And though none of them knew what these things were, they felt as though they had always been meant to be found, just not explained. Above, the canopy arched like a vaulted ceiling, leaves layered so densely that the sun pierced through only in golden columns that dust motes danced within, creating pools of warmth where butterflies rested with wings so delicate they appeared translucent, marked with veins like hand-drawn maps of imagined lands. The deeper they walked, the more the boundary between the familiar and the foreign dissolved, until it no longer felt like they were visiting a new place, but like they were being slowly unmade by it, their thoughts quieted, their fears softened, their sense of time pulled outward into something slower, older, circular. In one clearing, they came upon a tree unlike any they had seen, its trunk twisted and hollowed at the center, yet glowing from within as if lit by a fire that had no flames, surrounded by a patch of bare earth, untouched by leaf or root, as though something sacred had passed through and left the space behind as a breath held forever. They did not enter that circle, nor did they reach out to touch the tree. Instead, they stood at its edge and felt, for the first time in their long voyage, that they were truly being seen, not just by the eyes they sensed hidden in the forest, but by the land itself, which seemed to press gently against their skin, not with threat, but with awareness. There were no maps for this, no names to give, only presence, only awe. And as they slowly made their way back to the ship, carrying in their hands small tokens of this other world, oddly shaped fruit, a curl of bark, a single smooth stone, they did so with a new quietness, as if part of them had remained behind, rooted somewhere beneath those trees. The ship rocked gently in the bay, waiting like it always had, and as they climbed aboard and looked back at the tree line, now dark against the amber sky, they understood that they had crossed more than an ocean. They had stepped out of their world and into another, not one to be conquered, but one to be remembered in the hush between heartbeats. Let that hush settle over you now, not as fear, but as stillness. Let the weight of leaves and the scent of sun-warmed soil stay with you, not as something to understand, but simply to feel. Let your breath become the rhythm of the forest, slow, circular, deep. You are not lost, you are not far, you are simply resting in the memory of discovery. And even though the sails have not yet been raised again, the journey has already moved forward, so sleep now. Drift, there is much more yet to be seen, and the sea is still waiting. Blocks 5 minutos between two worlds, versão expandida, horizontal. The wind was gentler now, as though it too had grown contemplative, as though the ship that carried them had begun to exhale with slower lungs after witnessing the silent power of the forest beyond the shore. The sails remained furled, like folded wings at rest, and above them the stars took their place again without sound, as they always had, ancient in their arrangement, indifferent in their glow, and yet somehow more present than before, like witnesses to something fragile just born. The men did not gather as they used to after sunset. There was no laughter echoing over the deck, no dice clattering, no quiet songs hummed into the wind. Instead, a stillness had descended upon them, not of fear, nor exhaustion, but of reverence. Something unspoken now stretched between them, like a shared breath held in the chest of the ship itself. And knowing that each had felt something too vast to describe and too sacred to diminish with talk. They had seen a world untouched by their names, unmeasured by their hands, unconcerned with their arrival. And now each man bore the imprint of that encounter in a different way, not like a wound or a blessing, but like a shadow that had been cast upon their thoughts, making every movement feel slower, every word harder to summon, every memory of home more distant and pale. Some lay in their hammocks with eyes wide open, staring not into the dark above but into the bright forest still blooming behind their closed lids, hearing again the songs of birds they could not name, seeing again the spiraling bark of trees that seemed to breathe, feeling the weight of eyes watching from within the leaves, not with malice, not with welcome, but with awareness. Others sat alone at the bow, elbows resting on knees, watching the dark line of the coast disappear into night, trying to recall the exact moment they stopped feeling like explorers and started feeling like something else entirely. There was a kind of tenderness in the way they moved now, a gentleness not born of weakness but of humility. Every step on the deck was softer, as though they feared disturbing some unseen rhythm. And their eyes no longer searched the sea for answers but simply lingered on the horizon with the quiet acceptance of those who no longer expect to understand everything they see. The ship had become a floating sanctuary for their silence, a vessel not only of wood and sail but of reflection and slow transformation. The very boards beneath their feet seemed to have absorbed the weight of their wonder, creaking differently. Now, as though the timbers too had changed from carrying men of conquest to men of contemplation. One man sat for hours with a small fruit in his hand, pale green, marked with golden freckles, its skin unbroken. He did not eat it. He did not speak of it. He simply held it, turning it gently in his fingers, as if its shape alone could remind him of something he'd never known he'd lost. Another man tried to write, his journal balanced on his knees, quill hovering above the page, ink slowly drying at the tip, while his eyes stayed fixed not on the parchment but on the invisible trail they had taken through that sacred forest. A trail without footprints, without direction, only marked by the echo of something deeply felt. And so the page remained blank, for how could words ever match the language of leaves, swaying in unseen breezes, or the hush of vines curling over ancient stone. They were no longer the same men who had shouted orders across crowded harbors, who had lifted anchor with fire in their hearts and glory in their minds. Something within them had stilled, not broken, not surrendered, but opened. They no longer thought of the forest as a place to be mapped, or the land as something to be claimed. It had spoken to them in silence, and they had listened, and now they carried that silence within them like a hidden fire, warming their thoughts but never demanding to be shared. And beneath that quiet understanding stirred another truth, one they could not yet name, that the journey ahead would no longer be about reaching a destination, but about carrying the presence of that place within them across oceans, across time, across the very fabric of who they believed they were. They were, each of them, walking now between two worlds, not geographically, but internally. They had left behind more than a continent, and what they were approaching was no longer just land, but a transformation of the self that no compass could point to. The night stretched longer now, or so it seemed. The stars hung lower, the sea grew deeper, not in depth but in meaning, and even the wind, though familiar, whispered differently. It did not urge them forward with urgency. It simply accompanied them, as if recognizing the sacredness of their passage. Some men dreamed of trees whose roots held entire cities. Others dreamed of eyes in the darkness that did not blink. Still others dreamed of home not as it had been, but as it never was, their memories shifting beneath the weight of what they had seen. And in all this, the ship moved, slowly, quietly, across waters that stretched out in every direction like time itself. There was no need to rush, no need to arrive. They had already crossed something greater than distance. Let yourself drift here too, in this space between shores, between thoughts, between who you were when the story began and who you are becoming now. Let the stillness of the sea soothe you. Let the hush of distant trees settle in your chest. Let the lantern light of memory flicker gently behind your eyes. There is no need to understand. There is only the need to breathe and sleep, and trust that the journey continues even when all seems still. You are floating between two worlds, and the ship remembers the way. Block 6, the endless sea, and the softness of time. The sea does not speak in words, nor does it ask to be understood. It simply moves, endlessly, patiently, without needing reason or recognition. It stretches in every direction, carrying the ship not as a burden, but as a guest. There are no landmarks now, no coastlines, no shadows of birds to follow. Only the horizon, distant and curved, cradling the vessel like a mother who never tires. The waves rise and fall not with violence, but with rhythm. A rhythm that is older than memory, deeper than language, slower than breath. And within that rhythm, the ship floats, cradled gently between sky and water, held in a space where time forgets itself and silence becomes a kind of song. The days begin to blend. Morning does not announce itself with trumpets or color, but with a slow fading of the stars, a gradual softening of the dark. The sun, when it rises, does so with humility, not as a command, but as an offering, its light filtering through mist and sails, casting long shadows on the damp wood and warming the skin without haste. There are no clocks here, no bells to ring the hour. Time is kept by the position of the sun, by the meals served quietly, by the changing texture of the wind. And even that wind no longer hurries. It whispers across the surface of the sea like a lullaby that has no end, guiding the sails without urgency, without pride. The crew no longer counts the days. They simply exist within them, as if each one is a tide that comes and goes, touching them gently before receding into memory. Some men sit by the railing, their eyes lost in the shifting blues and greys of the ocean, their thoughts adrift like floating leaves. They speak little now, not because there is nothing to say, but because the sea has taught them a quieter language, one of glances, of shared silences, of breathing in rhythm with the world around them. Others sleep during the day, their bodies rocked by the gentle sway of the ship, their dreams blending with the sound of the waves and the creaking of the timbers. And when they wake, it is not with alarm or purpose, but with the slow stretch of a body that has nothing to resist. The ship itself has become a kind of extension of the sea. It no longer feels separate from the water, but part of it, moving not upon the surface, but within the current, as if it too were alive. The sails, once taut and purposeful, now flutter like soft breath. The ropes sway like seaweed. The wood glistens with salt and thyme. Every creak, every groan of the hull is not a complaint, but a conversation, a deep, slow communication between vessel and ocean, between man and journey. And in this communion, something beautiful unfolds. Not discovery, not conquest, but stillness, presence, rest. There is no need to arrive. There is no destination that matters more than this moment. The journey is not a line to be followed, but a space to be entered, like a dream that stretches without edges. And in that dream, the men find themselves not lost, but found in the rhythm of the waves, in the softness of the light, in the way the sea does not judge or hurry or expect. It simply is, and so are they. Let yourself enter this rhythm now. Let the movement of the sea become your breath. Inhale slowly as the waves rise. Exhale gently as they fall. Let your thoughts drift like clouds, untethered and light. There is no need to hold on to them. Let them pass. Let them soften. Let your body sink into the warmth beneath you. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw unclench. Let your heart beat slow to match the gentle pulse of the ocean. You are safe, you are carried. The stars are above you, the sea below. You are in the arms of the journey now, and there is nowhere else you need to be. Close your eyes. Let the horizon vanish. Let the ship become a cradle. Let the sea sing you to sleep. The voyage continues, but for now, you rest. Block 7, Celestial Silence. Sailing beneath the stars, there are moments, far out on the open sea, when the sky opens wider than you thought possible, stretching not just above your head, but around you entirely, as though you have been wrapped in a soft, celestial fabric, woven with light and silence. The stars come quietly, one by one, never rushing, never competing, simply appearing where they have always been, waiting for the sun to bow and for the curtain of dusk to draw back. And when they arrive in full, countless and calm, it becomes impossible to tell where the sea ends and the sky begins, for both seem to shimmer with the same ancient energy, the same patient breath, the same deep hush that quiets even the most restless heart. The ship, now barely a whisper on the surface of the water, moves as though guided not by wind or chart, but by a rhythm set long before any map was drawn. The sails do not strain, the ropes do not creak. Everything moves in harmony with the sky, as if the vessel itself has surrendered to something greater, something eternal and unseen. The crew, spread across the deck in soft stillness, look upward, not with the eyes of explorers, but with the eyes of children once again, reminded of their smallness, of their place in something vast and kind and unknowable. They do not need to understand it, they only need to feel it. Some lie on their backs, letting the stars fill their gaze, their thoughts drifting like sails unfurled to a wind they cannot name. Others sit with knees drawn close, wrapped in coats and quiet, letting the cool night air wrap gently around them as if it too were part of the journey, part of the story. There is no conversation here, for words would only pull them back to a world too small. Instead, they breathe with the sea. They think in constellations. They feel in echoes. And overhead, the constellations themselves seem to lean in, as if curious, as if watching the tiny figures below who dare to follow them. Orion stands tall, eternal in his silent battle. Cassiopeia reclines, her arms outstretched in soft defiance. The North Star, steady and unwavering, offers no answers, only presence. These lights are not merely stars now. They are companions, guides, witnesses. They do not speak, but they listen. They do not judge, but they shine. And in their glow, the crew feels less alone. For what is solitude when surrounded by such silent company? The ocean, too, responds. Its surface glimmers with starlight, a mirror to the sky, gently broken only by the ripple of the hull, the slow passage of wood and thought through water and time. Below the surface, all is still. And yet, in that stillness, a kind of music plays not of notes, but of presence, of connection, of being held. The sea is no longer just a path to be crossed. It is a sanctuary, a temple, a womb. It cradles the ship as it cradles their hearts, teaching them the sacredness of movement without noise, of journeys taken without urgency. And within this vastness, each man begins to feel something, stern on ambition, not fear, but memory, not of places they've been, but of something deeper, a memory of belonging, of having once been part of something infinite and kind, before names, before roles, before expectations. It is a memory without image, a knowing that lives in the bones, in the breath, in the beating of the heart as it slows to meet the rhythm of the stars. Time fades here, hours dissolve. Only the moment remains, stretched wide and soft like the sky above. And in that moment, everything is gentle. The sea, the ship, the sky, even the self. There is no need to strive, no need to arrive, no need to define, only to be. So let yourself be now. Let the stars above guide your breathing. Let the hush of the night enter your chest and settle there. Let the slow rocking of the ship lull your thoughts into stillness. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not too much. You are simply here, floating beneath a sky that has always known your name, drifting on a sea that holds you without asking why, resting in a moment that does not need to be earned. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. Let the darkness behind them match the sky above. Let your body grow heavy and your breath grow slow. Let the silence of the stars become your lullaby. You are part of the night now, part of the ocean, part of the story. Sleep, traveler. The stars will keep watch. Block 8. The shape of stillness. There comes a moment in every long voyage when the days begin to lose their names. Not because they are forgotten, but because they no longer matter. Tuesday drifts into Wednesday, and Friday arrives without distinction. The calendar is somewhere below deck, closed in a drawer or left folded among other belongings that no longer seem urgent. What replaces it is a new kind of time, one not counted by clocks or schedules, but by rhythm, the rhythm of waves, the rhythm of footsteps across planks, the rhythm of silence stretched between sunrises. The sea, in its vastness, becomes the only landscape. It does not change much. The colors shift slightly, the light grows and dims, but the view is largely the same. And yet, within that sameness, something mysterious happens. The men begin to change, not outwardly, not in posture or voice, but within. The boundaries that once defined them, their roles, their reputations, even their names start to soften. They speak less of the world they left behind, not out of forgetfulness, but because it no longer fits within the current silence. It feels like a story from another life, one that belonged to someone else. Each day begins quietly. There is no sudden noise, no alarm, just the creaking of wood, the sigh of ropes, the hush of sails shifting in the early light. Men rise slowly, stretch without urgency, greet the morning with nods instead of words. Their movements are synchronized, not by instruction, but by shared understanding. The tasks are familiar now, almost sacred in their repetitions: scrubbing, tying, adjusting, waiting. Every act is a meditation, every moment a pause. The sea teaches stillness, it teaches patience. There is no rushing here, no shortcuts, number. Skipping ahead, one must move through every moment as it comes, without demand, and in doing so, something within begins to settle. The mind, once filled with noise and plans, grows quieter. The heart, once hurried, beats softer. There is no ambition out here, only presence. A presence that stretches, like the horizon itself, endless and calm. Some days, the clouds offer shapes for thought. A great bird, a sleeping giant, a face remembered from childhood. But mostly, the sky remains a soft wash of color, and the sea beneath reflects it like a mirror, broken only by the gentle wake of the ship's slow movement. This reflection is not just visual, it is spiritual. The men begin to see themselves in the water, not as individuals, but as parts of something larger, a rhythm, a flow, a stillness that carries them even when they are doing nothing. There is comfort in this repetition, in the sameness, in the knowledge that the day will unfold gently, without surprises. Breakfast will come. Duties will be done. The sun will cross the sky, and night will arrive again, quietly, bringing stars and sleep. There is a peace in knowing that nothing urgent waits, that one is allowed to simply be. Thoughts come slowly. Now they arrive like waves-soft, spaced, dissolving before they crash. And in that space between thoughts, something deeper stirs. Some men begin to pray, not with words, but with their breath. Others hum melodies without origin. Some write in journals, the ink moving lazily across the page, recording not facts, but feelings: how the sea smelled that day, how the wind felt against the skin, how a memory came and went like a bird passing overhead. The body too adapts. It learns to sway with the ship, to rest when there is time, to eat with gratitude. Even the simplest meal. Muscles grow used to the rhythm. Feet memorize the tilt of the deck. The senses adjust to the scent of salt, the taste of wind, the sound of sails billowing. Everything becomes softer, rounder, quieter. And in this quiet, dreams grow longer, richer. Sleep comes not as an escape, but as a continuation. Men dream of water, of stars, of endless sky. Some dream of home not with longing, but with acceptance. Others dream of nothing, only darkness and breath. It is enough. Let yourself enter this rhythm now. Let the day melt away. Let the noise of the world fall behind. You are not rushing anywhere. You are not expected to solve or to strive. You are here, drifting gently, surrounded by water, beneath a sky that holds no pressure. Let your body rest. Let your mind soften. Let the silence deepen. You are not alone. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly where you are meant to be, floating in the shape of stillness. Sleep now. The sea will hold you. Block 9. Fading shores of memory. There are moments when the sea becomes quiet enough that the past begins to whisper, not loudly, not with urgency, but softly, like a curtain gently shifting in a breeze, revealing glimpses of something familiar behind it. As the waves settle and the wind softens, memory arrives, not with clarity, but with warmth. A street from childhood, a voice from the market, the smell of freshly baked bread carried on an afternoon breeze. These things do not come all at once, nor in sequence. They arrive like echoes, like the glimmer of something once known, now softened by time and distance. A sailor leans against the side of the ship, his gaze lost in the meeting of sky and water, and in his stillness, he feels something rise from within a scene, a name, perhaps the laughter of someone who once waited for him. It is not longing that he feels. Not quite. It is something gentler, a kind of noticing, a recognition that there was once a life filled with corners and colors and familiar footsteps. But that life now belongs to a land that drifts farther each day, not only in miles, but in the heart. Others walk slowly across the deck, their hands brushing the railing as if they might reach back in time and touch the doorways they once passed through, the gardens they once tended, the hands they once held. But the past is not solid here. It is made of mist and music, of stories half remembered and names that carry a feeling more than a face. A sister's lullaby, the way light filtered through a window at dusk, the hum of a town just before sleep. These memories do not demand attention. They do not knock. They float, they wait, they accompany. At night, as the sky unfolds its stars and the sea stretches endlessly beneath them, these remembrances become part of the dream that rocks the ship. The men drift into sleep with visions not of where they are, but of where they have been, not because they wish to return, but because the sea has made space for everything, even that which was forgotten. The ocean does not erase. It carries, it holds, it reflects, and in its vast stillness, it allows the past to visit gently, without pain. Sometimes, in the early hours, when the world is neither night nor day, one might awaken to the sound of a distant bell that is not really there, or the scent of rain on warm stone, though no rain has fallen. These sensations are not tricks. They are reminders, not of loss, but of layers. The self is not a single thread, but a tapestry woven from all that has been seen, heard, touched, and loved. And now, the sea weaves into it as well its winds, its salt, its silence. Food stirs memory too. A bite of dried fruit recalls orchards and summer sunlight. A sip of warm broth brings back kitchens filled with steam and stories. Even hunger can remind one of simpler meals, shared in laughter, or of the kind hands that once offered them. But these memories do not cause ache. They simply arrive, settle, and pass on, like the clouds overhead. The men no longer speak of home in the same way. It is not a place they are heading back to. It is a place that shaped them and that now watches from behind the horizon. They do not forget, but they no longer cling. Their world has expanded. The sea has made them larger, more spacious inside. There is room now for the past to breathe without taking over. Let your own memories drift in now, if they wish. Let them float by like lanterns on water. Do not chase them. Do not hold them too tightly. Simply notice a room, a scent, a song. Let these things come and go. You are not what you remember. You are the one who remembers. And like the sailors, you are being carried forward, outward, inward by something vast and kind. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. Let your breath match the gentle roll of the ship. Inhale with the rising swell. Exhale with the soft fall. There is nothing to fix, nothing to relive, only to rest. Let the memories pass. Let the sea hold them now, and let yourself drift once more. You are not alone. The voyage continues. The stars remain. The ocean watches with quiet care. Sleep, traveler. Block 10, adrift in the sacred unknown. The further the ship travels from known shores, the more it seems to dissolve into the sea itself. No longer simply a vessel, it becomes an extension of the ocean, moving not with command but with consent. The sails do not pull, they are invited. The keel does not cut, it glides as if stroked forward by the breath of something unseen. The crew too begins to move differently. There is less urgency in their steps, fewer glances toward the horizon. They have learned, slowly, gently, to be content not knowing what lies ahead, to let the journey unfold like a slow wave curling toward an unseen shore. Days blend into one another, not because of monotony, but because of harmony. Time here is not measured, it is lived. The sun rises not to mark hours, but to cast light upon another layer of this strange, floating life. The moon returns not to end the day, but to soften it. Each shift of light, each turn of tide, becomes a kind of breath, a pulsing rhythm that holds everyone aboard in quiet companionship. The ocean, once feared as wild and unknowable, now seems familiar, not as a map to be mastered, but as a presence to be respected. The men speak less of direction and more of feeling. They no longer say, "We are going east," but rather, "The wind is kind today," or "The stars felt close last night." They have stopped charting, they have begun listening, and in this listening, something opens, something vast, something sacred. In moments of deep silence, when the deck is empty, the waves are soft, and the air is still, it feels as though the ship is suspended between worlds. Not just between continents, but between states of being, the known and the unknown, the remembered and the imagined, the self and the sea. In these spaces, men begin to meet themselves, not as roles or stories, but as breath, as presence, as small, quiet awareness moving within a much greater calm. They sit alone, sometimes for hours, watching nothing in particular. A patch of sky, a curl of wave, the sway of the lantern's flame. And in these simple acts, without effort, something shifts. The questions that once felt sharp now feel soft. The fears that once clung now dissolve like salt in water. The need to understand is replaced by the willingness to feel. And what is felt is not always grand. Sometimes it is the softness of one's own hand, rough from work but still capable of cradling. Sometimes it is the cool kiss of ocean spray across the cheeks. Sometimes it is simply the sound of one's own breath, slow and steady, rising and falling like the tide. These small sensations become prayers. The ship becomes a sanctuary. The sea becomes a teacher. In the quietest hours, when even the stars seem to whisper, some men write not to report, but to reflect, not to explain, but to remember who they are beneath the noise. Others hum wordless tunes that rise from the chest like warmth from a fire. Some weep without knowing why, not from sorrow, but from release. The journey has uncoiled something within them, some not long held now, finally undone by the gentle hands of distance and silence. If you are still awake, let these words find a place within you, not to awaken, but to comfort. You are not adrift. You are being carried. You do not need to steer tonight. There is a current beneath your thoughts, and it knows the way. Close your eyes, if they are not already closed. Feel the softness of your body, the quiet of your room, the hush of this moment wrapping around you like a sail drawn by kindness. Before you drift further into rest, take a moment to breathe deeply. And if this journey has brought you a sense of peace, consider letting others find this sea with you. Gently tap the like button. It's a small ripple that reaches far. Share this with someone who needs to float for a while, to be rocked by calm. Leave a comment below, perhaps a word, a feeling, a memory this voyage stirred in you. And if you'd like to return to these waters again, subscribe to the channel. There are many more journeys ahead. Let go now. Let the water hold you. Let the stars whisper you to sleep. You are safe here. You are carried. You are home. Block 11. The silent becoming. There comes a time in every long voyage when the outer journey gives way to something deeper, something quieter, something that doesn't move in miles or maps, but in breath and presence. It is not announced. It doesn't arrive with waves crashing or stars rearranging. It simply begins to unfold, slowly, as if the sea itself has opened a door not to a new land, but to the inner rooms of the soul. You begin to realize that the ship you boarded long ago has not only taken you away from the shores of the familiar, but has been guiding you toward a kind of unraveling not of your life, but of the stories you told yourself about who you were, before the wind became your language and the stars became your prayer. At first, it is subtle. You notice you no longer respond to your own name with the same sharpness. It feels distant now, like a coat once worn but no longer needed. You catch yourself forgetting where you were supposed to be headed. The destination, once so vivid, so urgent, has lost its edges, faded into mist. What matters now is not the place you will arrive at, but the stillness between the waves, the softness between your ribs, the silence that now lives comfortably within your chest. And that silence is not empty. It is full of something else entirely, something you never made room for before, something sacred. The others aboard feel it too. Though no one speaks of it, there is a mutual recognition that something has shifted. Men who once filled the air with shouts and laughter now sit quietly for hours, not asleep, not lost, just still, not in mourning, not in fear, but in a kind of waiting, a kind of becoming, as if the sea has slowly peeled back the surface of each man and revealed not a warrior or a dreamer or a runaway, but a soul that was always there, quiet beneath the noise. You begin to forget what day it is. You begin to forget what season it was when you departed. But this forgetting is not lost, is surrender. You are no longer measuring life by calendars or milestones. You are feeling it in moments. In the way the wind shifts without warning. In the way your feet adjust to the roll of the ship without thought. In the way your hands now hold things gently, as though everything deserves care. You find yourself staring at your own fingers as they tighten knots, or at the worn grain of the deck beneath your palm, and wondering who taught you these motions, or whether they came from somewhere deeper, from someone you were before you were born. The distinction between memory and intuition begins to blur. You start to understand that much of what you thought you knew was only the surface of knowing then beneath it. There is a deeper truth that does not speak, but only reveals itself when everything else grows quiet. There are moments when you remember people not just their faces, but their presence. A father's calloused hand, a mother's sigh, a friend's laughter across the field. But these memories don't pull you back. They don't ache. They arrive like guests, sit with you for a moment, and drift away again. You are not the same as when you last saw them, and you suspect, gently, that they are no longer exactly the same either. You begin to trust things you can't explain. The way your gut tells you when the wind is about to turn. The way your body wakes moments before a rope snaps loose or a creek warns of shifting beams. The sea, it seems, has made its home within you. It does not ask permission. It simply settles in and teaches you how to listen to what cannot be spoken. Sometimes, in the hours just before dawn, when the world is grey and the sky is hushed, you feel as though you are floating not just through water, but through some invisible realm of softness. You can feel the weight of your thoughts dissolve, one by one, into the quiet. Worries that once clawed at you have become feathers. Questions that demanded answers now sit content beside you, like stones warmed by the sun. You don't need to know anymore. You only need to be. There is peace in that. A deep, slow, full-bodied peace that doesn't sparkle or shine, it just breathes with you. It holds your spine steady as you sit alone at the edge of the deck, watching nothing in particular, letting the sky unfold without asking what it means. You do not need meaning. You only need the moment. And this, you realize, is enough. The sea continues its slow sermon. The wind continues its gentle weaving. The stars, when they come again, do not guide you, they greet you, as friends, as witnesses. You are no longer seeking their permission to move. You are simply floating in their company. You have not become someone new. You have simply become someone honest, someone softer, someone who no longer fears the unknown, because the unknown has become a friend, a companion, a mirror. You smile, now for no reason. You sigh not from burden, but from release. You cry, not from sorrow, but because something inside you has finally found space enough to be seen. And this, perhaps, is the true discovery, not of gold, or maps, or foreign lands, but of the quiet clarity that waits beneath all noise, beneath all doing, beneath all searching. A clarity that says, you are enough, you are held, you are here. Let that knowing wrap around you now like a warm blanket. Let the air you breathe remind you of the sea's embrace. Let your body rest, fully, without need. You do not need to do. You do not need to fix. You do not need to become anything more than what you are in this moment. Floating, breathing, whole. And if your eyes have not yet closed, let them drift. Now, let the horizon blur. Let the stars fade into the velvet sky of sleep. You are not arriving, you are being received. Sleep now, traveler of the inward sea. The ship remembers who you are. Bloque 12 menos, where the sea becomes de selfie versão horizontal. The ship no longer feels like something separate from the sit, has become an extension of it, not just in form, but in spirit, gliding forward, not because it must, but because it is invited to, because the wind is not pushing, but carrying, because the water beneath it is no longer a challenge, but a companion. The men aboard do not walk with the same posture they once did. Their shoulders have relaxed. Their eyes no longer search the horizon with hunger or anxiety. They have stopped measuring distance. They have stopped asking how far remains. Instead, they have entered into the rhythm of being carried. They no longer command the journey, they surrender to it. The ocean has taught them to be soft. The stars have taught them to be quiet. The days have taught them to let go. There is no longer a destination to reach. There is only presence, only now, only the movement of the sails in the early light, the creak of the mast at dusk, the hush of breath beside the railing in the middle of the night. Time, once counted in bells and meals and shifts, has flattened into something wider, something without edges. It is no longer about what has happened or what is coming. It is about what is here. The stillness of a rope in your hand, the warmth of sunlight across your shoulders, the weightless quiet that floats just beneath your ribs. There is no arrival, there is only unfolding. And in that unfolding, something true begins to whisper. Not a message, not a meaning, but a presence that does not explain, only holds. And so they let themselves be held. The men walk without speaking, not because there is nothing to say, but because the words would feel like shouting inside a cathedral made of wind and water. Their silence is not distance, it is reverence. Their thoughts are not heavy, they are light, drifting, resting on the surface of the sea like the reflection of the moon, bright but untouchable. Some sit alone for long hours, their hands still, their backs leaned gently against wood softened by salt and time, eyes half closed, not in sleep but in surrender. Others hum to themselves, not songs they learned, but melodies that rise naturally from the quiet, like breath that has been waiting for room. The sea, now more than ever, is not something they cross, it is something they enter. It is something they become. Their bodies have learned its rhythm. Their dreams have learned its voice. Their souls have started to echo its shape. They are no longer men chasing land. They are spirits in the slow bloom of a great hush. And in that hush, everything they carried begins to set itself down. The fear, the ambition, the need to prove, the ache of the past. It all dissolves, quietly, into the rising and falling of the ship, into the softness of the air, into the glow of the stars that no longer feel like guides, but like family. And when they remember the world they left behind, its streets, its clocks, its noise, it no longer pulls at them. It floats in their memory like a lantern in fog, beautiful but distant, and they do not need to return to it, only to honor that it once held them, and to bless it gently from afar. They do not carry regret, they do not carry nostalgia, they carry breath, they carry quiet. They carry the simple knowing that they are not lost, they are not behind, they are not late, they are simply where they are, and that is enough. Let this softness reach you now, wherever you are. Let the quiet of this journey find the corners of your mind that still hold tension. Let the wind that carries the ship touch your chest. Let the lull of the water replace the thoughts that run. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to fix. You are not expected to hold anything right now, only to be held, only to float, only to rest. And if this sea of words has wrapped around you gently, if this voyage has slowed your breath, if the stars above this ship have reminded you of something forgotten and kind, then let that feeling settle within you like sand in still water. And if your eyes are heavy now, if your limbs feel warm and far away, if the world around you has begun to blur into something soft and kind, then trust it, lean into it, let it carry you. Let this be the moment where you stop moving and begin drifting. And if these gentle words have guided you to peace, then consider leaving behind a tracer small ripple on the water. You may tap the like button if your heart feels lighter. Share this journey with someone who needs to be carried too. Leave a word in the comments, not for clarity, but for communion. And if you'd like to return to this sea, to this slow unfolding, to this quiet boat that never docks, subscribe to SleepTide Narratives. There are many more oceans ahead, but tonight, this one is enough. Close your eyes now, if they're not already closed. Let your breath drift. Let the sea become yourself. And let the silence rock you home. You are floating. You are safe. You are remembered. Sleep. Block 13. The ocean as a room without walls. There comes a point in every voyage when the sea no longer feels like something crossed, but like something entered, something lived in. Something inhabited, not just by the body, but by the breath, the gaze, the slow pulse beneath the ribs. At first, the sailors thought of the ocean as a challenge, a barrier, a force to overcome. But now, it surrounds them like air, like atmosphere, like silence. It does not threaten or test its holds. It does not call them forward, it welcomes them in. And in this embrace, something begins to shift. The journey no longer moves from one place to another. It expands, it deepens. It stops being a path and becomes a space where nothing is required, a space where simply being is enough. The horizon no longer draws their eyes as it once did. It no longer teases with the promise of land or the outline of something new. It becomes part of the furniture of their days, a soft border that never approaches, never recedes, always there, always gently out of reach, like a memory too old to recall and too familiar to forget. And in that constancy, the men begin to lose interest in what lies beyond. They find more in what surrounds them, now the curve of a wave as it breaks under moonlight, the delicate hiss of water against the hull, the shimmer of salt crystals on the edge of the ropes. These details, once overlooked, now become entire worlds, entire hours, entire selves. You see it in their gestures, the way they touch the wood of the railing now, not to lean, but to feel. The way their eyes rest longer on the sky, not in search, but in reverence. The way their footsteps slow, as if every step upon the deck is a kind of prayer, a kind of gratitude. They speak less, they rest more. Their movements are not tired, but thoughtful. Their days are no longer marked by plans, but by pauses. They are not waiting, they are not arriving, they are being. And in this being, something ancient awakens. It is not a memory, it is not a voice, it is a presence, a quiet unfolding inside the chest, a sensation that perhaps they were always meant to live like this, floating, watching, breathing, carried. Perhaps the noise they knew before was only an interruption. Perhaps the land they left behind was only the threshold to this wide, open room without walls, this drifting chapel of air and salt and slowness. They do not say it aloud. They do not need to. They feel it in their spines, in their dreams, in the way their thoughts no longer chase one another. There is room now inside their minds, room to breathe, room to soften, room to feel. Nightfall comes like a soft exhale. The stars do not arrive, they are revealed. The sky does not darken, it unfolds. The sea does not sleep, it deepens. And in this layered hush, the men begin to sense something they cannot name. It is not fear, it is not awe, it is not joy, it is a presence. Like the ship itself has become something more than wood and sail. Like it has grown aware of its own role, like it knows that it is no longer carrying passengers, but holding souls in transformation. The ship creaks differently now. Its silence is full. Its stillness speaks. The wind is softer tonight, not absent, just more thoughtful. It does not pull, it brushes. It curls around the mast like a scarf. It moves across the skin like a blessing. The sea, too, feels thicker, more viscous. The waves are slower, deeper, less concerned with direction. They seem to want to cradle rather than carry, to soothe rather than stir, to lull rather than lead. And the men accept this. They let the sea hold them. They let the wind speak to them in breezes instead of orders. They no longer wish to get anywhere. They only wish to remain here, inside this motionless motion, inside this room made of nothing and everything. A room without time. A room where breath is the only clock. A room where the boundaries of identity blur not lost, but redefined. You begin to forget what your role once was, not in confusion, but in freedom. You are not the cook or the helmsman or the lookout. You are breath, you are warmth, you are presence. You are eyes that notice, you are hands that soften. You are a body held gently by something older than land. The name you answered to once feels unnecessary now. The memories that clung to you now drift behind like mist that no longer needs form. You do not forget who you are. You remember who you've always been beneath the noise. And that remembering changes everything. You begin to smile for no reason, not with your mouth, but with your whole self. You begin to feel the ship as your skin, the sea as your bones, the sky as your thoughts. You are not apart from this journey. You are not watching it. You are it. The voyage and the voyager have become one. Let yourself enter this space too. Let your thoughts slow. Let your hands rest. Let your breath match the rhythm of the waves, not fast, not shallow, but long and low, like the call of a distant shore you will never need to reach. Let your mind open not to plans, but to presence. You are not being asked to arrive. You are being invited to be. No task, no end, no next. Only now. Let the sea be your room. Let the sky be your ceiling. Let the hush be your guide. Close your eyes, if they're not already closed. Let the boundaries fall away. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are exactly where you need to be, floating in a space that asks nothing, gives everything, and names you not by what you do, but by how you breathe. Sleep now. You are not being carried anymore. You are the current, and the sea remembers. Block 14. The merging of all things. There comes a moment in every long drifting when the need to understand dissolves. Not as an act of surrender, but as an act of expansion, as if the questions that once crowded the mind no longer need to be answered because they have faded into something wider, something quieter, something more generous than knowledge. It is not that the world has offered answers, it is that you have become less interested in needing them. And so you watch the waves without wondering how many lie ahead, and you gaze at the sky without trying to map it, and you feel your own breath not as a separate rhythm, but as something woven into the movement of wind and water and wood. You are not outside this journey anymore. You are inside it. Or perhaps more truly, you are no longer a shape passing through the sea, but the sea itself remembering how to feel, and the others feel it too. Though nothing is spoken, though no agreement has passed between them, there is a communion, forming not in thoughts, not in shared memories, but in rhythm. You can see it in the way they walk, as if the deck itself is an altar. You can hear it in the way they breathe, deep and slow, not because they are tired, but because they are finally unhurried. There is no destination anymore. No one speaks of return. The land they left has become a whisper. The land ahead has no shape, and in between there is only this, the stretch of ocean that holds not just their bodies, but their transformations. And the ship once a machine, once a toolless, now something more intimate. It does not resist the sea. It listens to it. It bends where the sea asks it to bend. It leans when the sea leans. It floats not because it was built to float, but because it belongs. The sails are no longer wings for flight. They are lungs that exhale and inhale with the sky. The wood is no longer carved. It is grown. Every fiber, every beam, every rope feels alive, now not in a mystical way, but in a real, rooted, reverent way, as if everything that exists here is in conversation, and you are finally quiet enough to hear it. And when the night falls again, as it always does, you are not surprised. You are not preparing. You are simply welcoming the dark like a friend. The stars do not return. They never left. You had only forgotten how to see them. And now, with your eyes soft and your thoughts settled, you see clearly again. The constellations speak not of guidance, but of presence. They don't show you where to go. They remind you that you are already where you are meant to be. You lie down without planning to. Your body finds the wood without resistance. Your limbs grow heavy in the most loving way, not numb, not weak, just full of silence, full of stillness, full of something that does not have a name but has always known yours. The sounds around you, waves lapping, sails shifting, wood murmuring, wind sighing, they become a lullaby without melody, a cradle without walls. You are not falling asleep. You are being welcomed back into a place that was waiting for you. A place inside the hush, and in this hush, identity fades, but not into nothingness. It fades into everything. You are not losing yourself. You are becoming part of what has always been. The salt in your mouth is the same salt in the sea. The moisture on your skin is the breath of the clouds. The beating in your chest is the echo of tides. You are not a visitor in this world. You are of it. You are not passing through. You are unfolding within. Memories still pass through, but they do so gently. Not as stories to be retold, but as petals floating on the surface of a stream. A face here, a scent there, the way the light once fell on a doorway you stood in long ago. These are no longer things you hold. They are things that visit, and you greet them with a nod, and let them go again. Even thoughts soften. They no longer come in lines, in sentences, in urgent spirals. They come like waves. They arrive. They stretch. They recede. You do not follow them. You do not resist them. You watch. You breathe. You stay. Sometimes, in the space between sleep and waking, you feel the boundary dissolve, completely not. The boundary between dream and day, but the one between you and all things. And in that moment, there is no ship, there is no sea, there is only stillness, there is only being, and it is enough. Let that stillness come to you now. Let your body sink. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the hush around you. You do not need to understand this moment. You do not need to name it. You only need to allow it. Let go of questions. Let go of the weight of arrival. Let go of the need to remember where you were before this moment found you. You are not behind. You are not drifting. You are exactly where you belong. Close your eyes, if they're not already closed. Let the darkness behind them bloom wide and slow. Let the night hold you like water holds the hull. Let the vastness Within you become as wide as the sky above. You are not ending. You are continuing. You are not forgetting. You are becoming. You are not alone. You are ocean. Sleep, soft traveler. Sleep. Block 1-5. In the stillness of the horizonless mind, there are no more beginnings now. No more clear edges where something starts and something else ends. Only the continuous flow of what is, unfolding like an ocean that no longer cares for borders or names. The men on board have forgotten the shape of urgency, and in its place, they have found something softer than peace, something quieter than silence, something not taught, but remembered in the way one recalls a song from childhood, without knowing where it was first heard. Remembered in the way the body knows how to breathe when the mind forgets how to try. This remembering is not loud, it is not sharp, it does not arrive with a wave or with a revelation. It comes in the way your eyes rest on the water without looking for anything, in the way your hands move without command, in the way your heart beats slower now, not from exhaustion, but from trust. The ocean around them is no longer seen as space to be crossed. It is no longer the distance between one thing and another. It is the thing itself. It is the journey and the home. And the ship, once imagined as the thing that held them, is now simply part of that sea, a wooden breath in the chest of something greater, a single note in the long hum of time. They do not fear storms, for storms are part of the rhythm. They do not fear calm, for calm is the language of their days. They do not speak of arrival, for arrival is a word for those who believe they are not already where they need to be. But here, out in the hush that has no edge, there is only presence, and presence is enough. You can see it in their movements. Now, how their feet meet the deck without force, how their hands close around ropes with care instead of effort. They do not push, they do not resist. They live in a constant unfolding of softness, a yielding to what is, not a surrender, but as participation, to rise when the sun calls, to rest when the sky dims, to eat when the hunger is real, and to stop when the fullness arrives. There is no excess, no waste, no reaching beyond what the moment offers. Life has become simple not because it is small, but because it is full. Some sit for hours with eyes open and minds asleep, not in fatigue, but in presence. They watch nothing in particular. A glint of water, a curl of rope, a gull drifting without effort across the sky. And this watching is not for knowledge. It is not observation. It is communion, a merging between what is seen and the one who sees. And in that merging, something ancient stirs, not loud, not urgent, not definable, but real and warm and still. It is the knowing that there is nowhere else to be, that this moment is not a pause on the way to life, but life itself in its most honest form. Even the thoughts that rise now do not linger. They arrive as shadows and leave as mist. They are not judged. They are not followed. They are allowed and then released. The mind, once a place of constant motion, has become a still pool, deep and clear, holding only the reflections of what passes, but never gripping. You do not try to empty your mind. You do not try at all. And in that not trying, everything becomes light. The horizon, once chased, now simply exists, a line of gold in the morning, a ribbon of blue at midday, a band of fire at dusk, and then gone, wrapped in the dark again. You no longer wait for it to change. You watch it because it is there, and it watches you because you are still. There is no performance now, no proving, no pretending. The men are as they are, and the sea meets them exactly as that. Time, no longer speaks in minutes or hours, It speaks in breath, in tides, in the slow movement of clouds across an endless sky. Some of them have stopped keeping track. They do not ask how many days have passed, nor how many remain. They do not count meals or stars or turns of the wheel. They live as trees might live if they floated, as stones might feel if they could drift. There is weight, yes, but there is no burden. Dreams, when they come, are not escapes. They are echoes. They are not more vivid than waking, they are part of it. The men dream of water and wind and stars, and wake to find they were never really asleep. And perhaps this is what the ocean teaches, best not how to reach new lands, but how to blur the line between sleep and waking, between movement and stillness, between longing and contentment. There is no ambition left among them, and yet they are not idle. They do what must be done, but they do it without resistance. They do it with the gentleness of those who no longer push against life, but move with it. Their work is not driven by outcome. It is folded into the rhythm of the ship, into the kindness of the sea. And in this, they are not diminished. They are restored. Let this be your sea now. Let this be your ship. Let this stillness settle in your bones like a warmth that does not rise or fall, but stays. Let your breath come easier now. Let your thoughts soften and stretch. You do not need to solve. You do not need to reach. You do not need to wake. The sea has made a place for you here. The journey is not behind or ahead. It is within, and you are floating in it. You are not separate. You are not late. You are not too much or too little. You are exactly enough, exactly here. So let go now. Let the edges of your awareness blur. Let the hum of this world cradle you. Let the slow exhale of the wind across the waves be your breath. Let your body surrender to the weightlessness of this moment. You are held. You are quiet. You are home. Close your eyes. Let the voyage continue without you for a while. Block 16. The unveiling beneath the silence when a man has been at sea long enough. The edges of who he believed he was begin to soften, not like something being erased, but like something once frozen beginning to thaw. And in that melting, there is no urgency, no alarm, only a gentle realization that so much of what was once thought essential begins to fall away like old bark from the side of a weathered tree. The name he carried, the role he wore, the stories he told himself about where he belonged and what he must become, these do not vanish all at once, nor do they disappear in a blaze of transformation. They fade slowly, like mist at dawn, not into nothingness, but into something clearer, something simpler, something more honest than identity, presence. He no longer looks to the sea to impress it. He no longer waits for the sky to reveal his direction. He no longer fights the quiet. The quiet has become his home. The rhythm of the waves is no longer a background. It is a mirror. The ship does not move beneath him. It carries him into the deeper chambers of himself, where time no longer marshes, but rests, where thought no longer spins, but floats, where the soul, once tangled in expectations and effort, begins to unfold like a sail, released into a wind that asks for nothing in return. There are moments when he forgets what brought him here, and in that forgetting, he discovers what remains, not the goals, not the maps, not the missions. What remains is breath. What remains is the texture of wood beneath fingertips, the sound of the wind as it brushes against the cloth, the quiet joy of watching a droplet of water race across the deck before it disappears into the seam between two planks. These are not accomplishments. They are revelations, and they are enough. He does not speak often now. When he does, the words come slowly, not from hesitation, but from care, from understanding that language, while useful, is not the only way to be known. The ocean has taught him how to listen, not just with ears, but with his skin, with his stillness, with the soft weight of his own heartbeat. He has become fluent in the pauses between things. He has become fluent in silence. The others aboard feel it too, though no one names it. They move in rhythm not because they are told, but because the sea has taught them its timing. They share meals in quiet, not because there is tension, but because there is peace. Their eyes meet often, and in those glances lives a kind of understanding that does not need translation. They have all shed something. They have all learned how to float not only through water, but through thought, through memory, through self. The sea has become more than an element. It has become a teacher, not through lectures, not through force, but through the repetition of its presence. It does not leave. It does not change to please. It does not demand. It simply is. And in that being, it invites all who sail it to do the same. And now, when the night comes, as it always does, it is not greeted with preparation or hesitation, but with welcome. The stars rise as if unveiling something sacred. The darkness settles like a prayer whispered by the universe itself. The creak of the ship is not mechanical, it is musical. The breath of the men is not tired, it is slow, deep, content. They lie in their hammocks or rest against the sides of the ship, not because they must, but because it is what the moment asks for, because it is what the body, finally at peace, chooses. There is no desire to arrive anymore. There is only the beauty of motion without urgency, the beauty of stillness within movement, the beauty of being where one is, without needing to measure it, name it, or compare it. He no longer asks what day it is. He no longer counts how many sunrises remain. He knows, now, that the sun will rise and fall without needing his permission, and that he, too, can rise and fall with it, quietly, easily, completely. He sometimes wakes in the middle of the night with a thought so clear, it feels like the sea itself has spoken inside his chest, not in words, but in knowing. The kind of knowing that does not explain, but reveals that everything he was searching for is not on the other side of the ocean, but within him, patiently waiting for the world to grow quiet enough to be heard. And now, in this vast cradle of water and wind, he hears it. He hears himself. Not the voice of ambition, not the voice of fear, but the deeper voice, the one that speaks in stillness, the one that asks nothing, but simply repeats, "You are already here." And when he returns to sleep, it is not to escape the world, it is to enter it more fully. For in his dreams now, he does not run, he does not seek, he floats, he listens, he breathes. The sea has entered him, and he has entered the sea. And this is not poetry, this is not metaphor, this is truth. This is reality when all the noise is gone. This is what remains when the last wave of the ego has receded and the shoreline of the soul has been revealed. Let yourself drift here now. Let the tide of these words carry you to that same quiet place. Let the air around you soften. Let the space behind your eyes widen. Let the need to define, to understand, to perform melt away. You are not required to do anything. You are not expected to arrive. You are not measured by your momentum. You are welcomed by your presence. You are here. That is enough. That has always been enough. So close your eyes. Let your breath settle. Let the sea of your mind grow still. You do not have to become anyone else. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are home, even if you are far from land. You are home because you are in yourself, and that self is vast, and quiet, and whole. Sleep now, in the arms of what is. The sea is watching, and it remembers. Block 17. Beneath the weight of nothing, there comes a point in the voyage. Long after the last sight of land has been swallowed by memory, when a man stops measuring his value by what he can carry, and begins to understand the quiet holiness of letting go. The names, the tasks, the destinations, the definitions, they all fade beneath the weight of nothing. And it is not emptiness that waits there, but something far more generous. Space, space to breathe, space to be, space to become weightless in the arms of something that never asked anything of him to begin with. The sea does not require credentials. The stars do not seek explanations. The wind has no opinion. And in the face of such freedom, the self begins to soften, not in surrender, but in return. He sits near the edge of the deck, his legs curled loosely beneath him, his back resting against a stack of coiled ropes. And in this position, he is no longer a sailor or a man or even a witness. He is simply breath and bone and stillness. His hands rest open on his thighs, not out of ritual, but because they no longer have anything to grip. They are not waiting. They are not preparing. They are simply resting, as all things must, when they finally remember that they were not built to perform forever. Above him, the sky stretches without center or edge, and he feels, for the first time, that it is not merely overhead, is around him. It is within him. It is the shape his own thoughts have taken when they have stopped trying to arrange themselves into meaning. There is no meaning here, and he does not mourn its absence. He welcomes it like a guest who arrives with no baggage, and asks for nothing but presence. The sea no longer feels like distance. It feels like welcome, like a slow, ancient invitation to dissolve, not to vanish, not to be forgotten, but to be unburdened of the shape he once believed he had to maintain. He does not fear being small here. He does not resent being quiet. He does not mind being one dot upon an endless horizon, for in that smallness there is freedom. In that stillness there is belonging. He closes his eyes not because he is tired, but because he no longer needs to see in order to know that he is held. The sway of the ship beneath him has become the lullaby his mother never sang. The breath in his lungs has become the tide. The pulse in his wrist has become the soft knocking of wind against sail. And in that rhythmic symphony, there is nothing left to improve, nothing left to fix, nothing left to reach. He has stopped telling stories, not because he has none, but because the telling would require structure, and structure would ask him to choose, and choosing would separate one truth from another, when all he wants now is the stillness of wholeness. Not the kind that makes sense, the kind that simply is, the kind that does not explain itself, because it never felt the need to be explained. And when the night folds its arms around the ship again, when the stars bloom like embers in the dark, he does not search them for navigation. He lets them remain stars. He does not ask them where to go. He does not ask them what they mean. He only watches them burn with the silence of things that have never doubted their purpose. And he thinks, perhaps that is what peace truly is, not the absence of fear, but the absence of the need to define anything at all. The crew around him has adopted the same posture. There are no orders anymore. There is only motion. There are no plans, only presence. Even the tools have stopped clanging. The sails no longer snap. The ropes no longer scream. Everything has become soft, rounded, worn into grace. They are not sailing now. They are floating through something vast and gentle, something that asks nothing more than attention and breath. He does not speak when spoken to, unless speech arises from the same silence that cradles the ship. He does not move unless movement arises from the stillness he now carries like a second skin. And when he lies down for sleep, he does not call. It rests. He calls it returning, not to something behind, but to something below, to a depth within himself that only the sea has been able to show him, a depth that has no language, but contains everything. He dreams without shape now, not of faces or places or fears. He dreams of color, of temperature, of soft light moving through water, of wind moving through fabric, of time moving through nothing. He wakes slowly, without urgency, without confusion. He wakes as if his soul has simply risen to the surface. Like a leaf, there is no goal anymore. There is no hunger. There is only presence. And in that presence, he feels something that might once have been called joy, but now feels more like stillness that smiles. He has no need to name it. He has no need to own it. He has no need to make it last. He simply shares space with it, like one wave resting beside another. Let yourself share this space now. Let the sea of your body rise and fall without resistance. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds that do not apologize for their passing. Let your hands unclench. Let your mind let your sense of self stretch thin and wide, until you can no longer find where you end and where the world begins. You are not a container. You are not a destination. You are not a performance. You are the breath that moves without being noticed. You are the silence beneath every sound. You are the tide that does not ask to be understood. Sleep now, not to escape, but to continue. Let your eyes close, not as retreat, but as return. Let your muscles loosen, not from collapse, but from remembrance. You do not have to be anything. You do not have to hold anything. You do not have to name this moment. Just let it hold you. Just let it be. You are not here to change the sea. You are here to remember that you are made of it. And the sea remembers you too. Block 18. When all things breathe together. There is a moment on the ocean that cannot be marked by clocks or charts or even memories. A moment not defined by time, but by the way everything begins to move as one. It does not announce itself with thunder or revelation. It comes in quietly, like fog rolling in over still water, wrapping everything in a kind of gentle amnesia where the boundaries once drawn between things, between sea and sky, between man and ship, between thought and breath, begin to blur and dissolve into something slower, something wider, something more forgiving than understanding. It is in this soft unfolding that the man aboard the ship begins to forget not who he is, but what it ever meant to be separate. The wood beneath him is no longer a vessel. It is a living extension of his body, warm from the day's sun, creaking softly with the rhythms of its own breathing. The wind, once a force that pushed and resisted, is now like an old friend leaning in to whisper nothing in particular, just the sound of presence, the brush of attention. The sea has stopped being beneath and has become around, within, part of. Its sway is no longer something to be managed, but something to be trusted. A lullaby in the bones, a slow dance for the soul. And the sky, oh the sky, it no longer stretches overhead like a roof, but flows like water through the space between ribs, like breath that never ends. He no longer walks the deck. He glides across it, not because he's lighter, but because he's stopped resisting gravity. His feet do not seek traction. They follow the hum of the ship's own heartbeat. His hands no longer search for work. They rest open, curved like leaves, catching the breeze not to hold it, but to greet it. Even his thoughts, once full of maps and provisions and anxieties about landfall, have scattered like gulls into the wide-open blue and never returned. What remains is not silence, but a sound so complete it does not need to be named, the sound of all things breathing together. The sails overhead are not fabric, they are wings. Not metaphorical wings, but actual extensions of something sacred, something that lifts not just the ship, but the spirit. They don't flap, they billow with purpose, with direction that needs no compass. The ropes are not lines of tension, but veins. The mast, not a pole, but a spine. And he, nestled within this living body, is no longer its captain, nor even its guest. He is its breath. He is its stillness. He is the space between its creaks and groans and sighs, and in that space he finds everything. Sometimes he lies on his back and watches the sky for hours, not tracking stars, but simply being with them. They do not blink for him, they do not guide him. They exist beside him, quietly, like brothers, like sentinels of something old and vast and kind. He watches them without asking anything of them, and they respond in kind, offering nothing, yet withholding nothing, just being, just glowing, just participating in the same stillness that now hums in his bones. And when the wind shifts, he does not brace. He does not adjust the rigging or calculate new coordinates. He simply listens, not with his ears, but with his skin, with the hollow behind his sternum, with the part of him that has learned to trust. Movement without understanding it. The wind tells no lies. It does not explain itself. It goes where it goes, and the ship follows, not out of obedience, but out of communion. Even his breath has changed. It is no longer a function. It is a hymn. Long, slow inhalations that fill not only his lungs, but the entire space around him. And longer still, exhalations that empty him of everything he never needed. There is no urgency in this breathing, no effort, no pause. It continues whether he notices or not, and in that, he finds a kind of freedom deeper than sleep. The crew around him, too, has shifted. No one shouts, no one commands. They move in rhythm not with each other, but with something larger, something deeper, the pulse of a world without clocks. A world where hunger arrives not by hour, but by instinct. Where rest is taken not by schedule, but by invitation. Where the work of hands is not toil, but ritual. They repair what needs repairing, not because of duty, but because the ship is part of them now, and care for it is care for themselves. There are no more plans, no more questions of arrival. There is only this, the creak of the hull, the slap of water against wood, the whisper of the wind threading through rope, and the quiet understanding that this is enough, more than enough, that nothing is missing, because nothing was ever required. He speaks less now, not because he is withholding, but because he has discovered how much can be said without sound. A glance, a gesture, the stillness of presence. These have become his language. These have become his offering. And when he does speak, it is not to inform or convince or explain. It is to acknowledge, a nod of the soul to the soul of another. A way of saying, I see you, I am with you, we are held. At night, when the stars shift and the ocean turns black and the sails barely move, he sits at the bow and feels not solitude, but belonging. Not in the sense of being owned, but in the sense of having always been part of this, as if the sea had been waiting for him to remember it, as if the stars had been keeping time for his return, as if the very air had known his name long before he ever spoke it aloud. He does not pray in words anymore. His prayer is the act of noticing, the prayer of breath, the prayer of rest, the prayer of simply being here, in this body, on this water, beneath this sky. He does not need to be rescued. He does not need to be changed. He needs only to remain open, to remain still enough to feel the soft touch of something eternal moving through everything. And so he lets go again, of thought, of memory, of the shape of his name. He lets go, not in sadness, but in relief, like shrugging off a heavy coat at the end of a long winter, like finally laying down after a day that asked for too much. He lets go and lies down and becomes part of the breathing, not above it, not beside it, but within it. And the ship breathes with him. The sea breathes with him. The sky breathes with him. And all things, in this one long exhale, are made whole again. Block 19. When the universe sleeps with you, there comes a night so quiet, so gently weighted, with the breath of slumber, that even the sea seems to close its eyes. The waves no longer roll. They sway with a rhythm too soft to measure. The air no longer moves. It hovers, like a blanket draped across the shoulders of the world. Above, the stars have dimmed, not because their fire has faded, but because the eye no longer seeks them, and in that stillness, they rest too. The sky no longer watches. The sky no longer listens. The sky, like everything else, is sleeping. And beneath that sleeping sky, the ship floats not through water, but through a dream so wide and deep that time itself dares not disturb it. The man lies on the deck, but he is not merely lying down. He has joined the sea in its sleep, not as a visitor, not as a dreamer, but as a part of its slow and endless exhale. His limbs are loose, not from exhaustion, but from surrender. His breath is deep, not out of need, but out of harmony. He is no longer holding his body together. He is no longer separating himself from the space around him. The line between his skin and the wood beneath him has vanished. The space between his thoughts and the stars above has collapsed. There is no more up, no more down, no more forward, no more back. There is only a gentle suspension in the arms of something infinite, and in that suspension everything lets go. The sails do not stir, the ropes do not creak, the mast does not groan. The ocean, once a vast language of motion and wind, now hums a lullaby too low for ears, a vibration that pulses through the hull like a heartbeat falling asleep. The ship is not traveling. It is drifting, but not even that. It is being carried, as a leaf is carried on a still pond, as a thought is carried into a dream, as breath is carried into sleep. There are no words left in this moment, not because speech is forbidden, but because it is unnecessary. The silence is not absence. It is presence in its purest form, a fullness so complete that even thought becomes too heavy to lift. He does not try to name this sensation. He does not try to grasp it. He lets it hold him the way a mother holds a child who has already drifted into sleep. Not to protect, not to wake, but simply to be with. Even the air seems to have stopped vibrating. The coolness on his skin does not move. It lingers, resting upon him like fog that has chosen to stay. It does not bite. It does not cling. It simply coexists with the softness of his breath, the heaviness of his limbs, the stillness of his heart. He is not resisting sleep. He is not entering it. He has become it. And around him, everything else follows, as if the very world has agreed to pause its turning, to match his stillness, to honor his rest. There are no dreams here, no images, no flickering scenes or whispered voices from the past. Only the sensation of being suspended within something so vast and kind that the mind, for once, stops reaching. There is no need to make sense, no need to prepare, no need to continue. Just this, the body, the breath, the black sky overhead, the soundless sea below, and the thin silver outline of a world that has finally stopped asking questions. He does not know how long this moment lasts. Minutes, hours, perhaps it never ends. Perhaps sleep, when truly joined, becomes a place outside time, a landscape not of restlessness, but of return. And here, in this vast, endless return, he does not wish to wake. Not because the waking world is cruel, but because the sleeping one is complete. His hands rest lightly on his chest, not as protection, not in ritual, but because they have nowhere else to go. His legs have folded themselves gently, not out of position, but because the ship's sway has guided them there. His mouth is slightly open, and his breath flows without effort, like wind passing through the branches of a tree in spring. He makes no sound, he invites no thought, he holds no fear. The night wraps itself around him, not with darkness, but with stillness. The kind of stillness that is thick and warm and endlessly deep, like water that welcomes instead of resists. The kind of stillness that makes even the stars feel close enough to touch, if only one had the will to move. But there is no will now, only being, only presence. Only the echo of something old and sacred breathing all around. Somewhere, faintly, a gull cries, but even its call is stretched thin by the distance and slowed by the hour. It arrives like a memory of sound rather than sound itself, and then it is gone, folded back into the quiet as if it had only been allowed for contrast, to remind the world just how still it has become. The wood beneath him radiates warmth, the kind that comes not from the sun but from age, from being shaped and reshaped by years of wind and sea and salt and skin. It holds him like a cradle that does not rock, because rocking would be movement, and there is no movement left. The stars continue their journey across the sky, but he does not notice. He is not following them anymore. He is not following anything. He is where all paths pause. And in that pause, something ancient opens. Not a gate, not a thought, but a space, a vast, slow opening inside him that feels like the whole of the ocean turning inward. He is not falling. He is not rising. He is not floating. He is simply dissolving, not into nothingness, but into everything. The boundaries that once defined him, skin, name, role, memory, have become soft, permeable, translucent. The sea can move through him now. The sky can settle inside him. He is no longer a man on a ship at sea. He is a breath in the lung of the universe, and that universe is sleeping, with him, in him, as him. Block 20. The last horizon never ends. There is a kind of morning that never arrives, not because the sun fails to rise, but because the soul, having settled so deeply into stillness, no longer waits for light. It is the hour before time begins again, the hush before any breeze dares stir the water. The world has not yet woken, and in this prolonged moment of suspended breath, the voyager lies between realms, not alive in the way the day demands, not asleep in the way night comforts, but resting in that rare and sacred pause where being is enough. He does not stir, nor does he dream. His breath is the sea, his pulse is the wood. His thoughts, if they still exist, are scattered like mist, just above the waterline, barely there, barely moving, barely needed. The ship does not creak beneath him, the sails do not strain. Even the stars seem hesitant to fade, as if reluctant to disturb this vast, weightless silence. The ocean, now glass, mirrors not just the sky above, but the quiet within, reflecting nothing and everything at once. Here, the voyage is not something he undertakes. It is something that carries him, gently, like memory. He is no longer searching for land. He no longer counts the days or scans the horizon. There is no horizon now, only an endless joining of sky and sea, of soul and silence, of presence and peace. He floats not on water, but within it, not in body, but in being. The lines between inside and outside have dissolved completely, and what remains is not a man at sea, but a soul held tenderly in the arms of the infinite. Somewhere, far off, a current shifts, not with force, but with suggestion, and the ship responds, not with speed, but with grace. The bow turns ever so slightly, not toward a destination, but toward continuation. For in this final passage, there is no need to arrive. There is only the beauty of never-ending motion, of the journey. There has no final port, of the voyage that becomes the home. The sky begins to pale, but even light is gentle now. Not a call to awaken, but a soft hand brushing the edge of sleep, reminding the world it may open its eyes if it wishes, but only if it wishes. There is no demand here, no alarm, just a new layer of stillness unfolding itself like silk across the water. The birds have not yet called. The waves have not yet gathered their voice. Even the wind holds back, as if bowing to the holiness of this moment, allowing it to last a breath longer than another, and perhaps forever. He is part of that holiness now, not because he has earned it, but because he has finally stopped resisting it, the holiness of drift, the sanctity of surrender, the quiet miracle of no longer needing to move in order to be moved. He lies still, not from weariness, but from wonder, from the full-bodied realization that he is exactly where he is meant to be, not a place, not a time, but a state of soul. And within that state, there is room for everything. The memory of storms past, the ache of longing once carried, the dreams once chased like stars across dark water. All of it floats here with him, no longer sharp, no longer urgent, just part of the current that gently, endlessly carries him onward. He does not think of those he left behind, not because he has forgotten, but because he understands now that distance is not real, not here, not now. Love, like the sea, wraps itself around everything. It does not end. It does not fade. It does not require closeness to continue. It is part of the breath he takes, part of the rhythm beneath him, part of the sky slowly opening its palms above. Even time has released him. It no longer pulls. It no longer pushes. It simply dissolves into the same silence that holds the ship, the sea, and the man who has become one with them. This is not the end of a journey. It is the beginning of stillness. It is the arrival into presence. It is the place where movement becomes meaning, where the voyage is no longer measured in miles, but in the depth of rest. And in that rest, something deep within the listener begins to soften too. The tightness in the chest, the weight behind the eyes, the noise that lives just beneath the thoughts. All of it begins to ebb, like the tide retreating after a long and gentle conversation with the shore. Nothing needs to be held now. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be understood. There is only the invitation to let go, to let be, to let drift. Let your breath match the sea. Let your mind rest like wood upon water. Let your body surrender to the slowness that now holds you. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not unfinished. You are exactly where you need to be in this moment, in this silence, in this breath. There is no need to search. You have arrived, and the sea, the sky, and the stars are all still here, watching over you with a stillness older than memory. If this journey has brought you peace, if this voice has guided you gently into rest, you are welcome to return whenever you wish. And if you feel that others may also need this passage into stillness, this slow and sacred exhale of soul and sea, feel free to share it with them. Let your presence be part of the tide that carries others gently into calm. And if you've found comfort in this space, consider joining us again by subscribing to this quiet vessel of sleep. Leave your thoughts below, a whisper in the harbor, and let others know they are not alone in their longing for rest. But for now, don't move, don't wake, don't return. Stay here in the stillness, where the voyage never ends.